All right. Welcome, Jessica, to the Real Estate Success Podcast. Thanks for being here today.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Of course. I'm excited for today's podcast. You're clearly a very, very successful realtor in this space. And so I would love to just get started. Can you tell the listeners a little bit about yourself and both personally and professionally?
Sure. Well, I am a single mother. My son will be 5 next week, and I am now officially a baseball mom. So that's
Big milestone.
yes. My social life consists of ball fields and then showing houses. I have been with Atlantic Sotheby's for now 4 years, effective this month. So I got a work anniversary, which I am
Congratulations.
thankful for. I have been in real estate since 2017. I previously was a civil service employee at Spaywar Cybersecurity Office, and I had a pretty good, decent gig. It was, stable, comfortable, good insurance. Um, Quite honestly, I was running out of the ability to be able to do things and adjust my schedule that I wanted to make, and I like to travel. Of course, getting into real estate, when I got into real estate, um, I didn't have my son yet. My focus was trying to have more flexibility with my life.
Mm,
And some friends of mine who owned a real estate company in Richmond called Valentine's Properties were like, "You really should check out this Brian Buffini um, thing and see what it's all about. I think you'd kill it in real estate." And I was like, "I don't know. I got to take off work for that, whatever." But I ended up going, and it motivated me. I was like, "Gosh, I'm ready. Let me get my license right now." So that was 2017. Um, since then, I have just been kind of going with the flow with everything that comes my way.
So, so you have a good gig with, like you said, great insurance, great provision, but a lack of flexibility in your life, a lack of ability to create your schedule, take trips kind of whenever and however you want. Um, and then you decided to get into real estate based on your friends, but that's a big jump. Like both, I do feel like you kind of need, anytime there's a big transition, you're moving away from something and towards something else. You can't just have one or the other. If you're going just away from something, you might be falling for the grass is greener effect. So you also need to be moving towards something. So it sounds like you were moving toward freedom, away from kind of restriction, but in that, jumping into the world of self employment where, hey, now we don't have insurance, now we don't have a 401k. Was that scary for you, kind of moving into the commission space?
Oh, terrifying, terrifying, because I loved the stability of the job that I had. My one of my best friends, she's my mentor. She's also my son's godmother. She
Oh,
is very successful, staffs Fortune 500 companies along the East Coast and Central America. But she sat down with me one day and noticed that I was bringing more money in as a part-time agent while I was still civil service than going there, and the monotony of going into the office and then versus being able to help families and seeing how happy they were with the success of being able to get them into a home and their achievements. She said, "Are you
mm.
ready?" I was like, "Yeah, I'm ready." She said, "Well, sit down right here in front of me and write your resignation letter and go
Oh,
in
wow.
and grab your box and don't go back." She was like, you're going to make it up. You're fine. You're going to do great at this. And if not, then you can always figure something else out. But don't not do something because you're scared, because you be
Mm.
very successful, and then you'll be kicking yourself later for not taking the opportunity when it presented itself. So I took the
Oh,
leap.
man. Yeah, congratulations. It's a big leap that many people don't take because of the fear. And I want to highlight this idea of, don't do something, don't not do something because you're afraid. Like we just don't want to be people who make fear-based decisions. We want to be courageous and take these leaps. So good on you for that. So you did do kind of both for a season, it sounds like. You maintained your W-2 job and then did this part-time on the side until you found yourself in a place where, hey, this is actually making more part time than this is full time.
Right. I've
Awesome.
got
How
I've
was
got the
balancing
connection.
that? Did you have your son when you were doing the balance?
No, no.
Okay.
I had my son in 2020, and I got my license March of 2017, and I
Okay.
made the full commitment September of 2017.
Okay.
After getting through that summer and seeing that I was more passionate about stepping outside the cybersecurity office to be able to get on my cell phone and work from my car than writing up someone else's travel voucher inside the office, it kind of like made sense. Now, I will say that my experience within civil service and helping military families and understanding their dependencies and their PCSs and everything has helped me tremendously with our military clients here locally, knowing
Mm,
that side of things, which was great. I'm also military brat myself. My parents were both retired officers, so familiar with all of the things inside and out with being military.
so would you say military has kind of become like some form of niche for you of like, hey, we serve a lot of military?
To be honest, through my career, I have done a lot of sphere. I
Mm,
haven't really started to hone in on niche until this year. I've worked off of referral base. I haven't bought into lead systems. I've just really been focused on cultivating my relationships, as Brian Buffini's plan tells you to do. You
mm-hmm,
invest in your relationships, and they're going to develop that trust with you. So it's been rewarding for me having so many friends, long-term friends of 20 years, even here in the area, that have relied on me as a resource for the realtor. Just
mm,
recently, I'm starting to go more towards a niche that I feel passionate about because why not love what you do, right? So
totally.
I'm focusing on waterfront homes, bayfront homes, those that are centered and close to the water that are more available. Obviously, not letting go of my sphere or those specifics that my clients want, but who doesn't want to go and show a beautiful house on the water with the boat lift and look at a
Oh my
sunset,
gosh.
right?
Yeah. Sign me up.
Yeah.
That is awesome. I do agree with you and Brian Buffini of like the best way to grow your all of these businesses, the especially real estate is such a trust-based relational business. Like you are providing a service, but that service is wholly based on someone's trust in you that you're going to guide them through a very complicated and overwhelming process that's going to lead them through one of the biggest transactions of their life. And
Yeah.
so to have that trust and to have a circle that you've built and fostered that then word of mouths you. I mean, word of mouth leads are, I think it's something like 5 times more likely to become a paying client than cold leads or paid leads, things like that. So what did that look like to begin fostering that? So, excuse me. So you start kind of part time, kind of in that part time to full time window. Are you just calling people, calling your sphere, and letting them know, hey, this is what I'm doing? How are you beginning to get your name out there? Because it's very impressive the business you've built, the numbers you've been able to produce while um, doing that mostly out of word of mouth through your sphere. So what did that look like?
Well, I will say that being born and raised here in the area has been a huge help with having that knowledge and expertise with understanding the different subdivisions, the schools, the attractions, what's going on. Also, those friendships that I've developed over the years. I also, between working at civil service, I did a lot of work with charity works and promoting, worked with Harley Davidson and doing a lot of rides for different things and was a very social butterfly, I guess I would say, from through my 20s, which had also developed a lot of relationships. And social media has gone so far with being able to maintain those relationships once established. So that's been helpful with being able to create that.
Amazing. So in 2020, you had your son and moved into being not only businesswoman, but, single mom. And that's a huge lift. Like that is, requires a level of capacity that I personally can't fathom. How have you balanced that? What has that been like for you, kind of in that process of, hey, I have this business, we're 4 years into it, 3 years into it, and now I have a son that I have to take care of and obviously want to take care of.
Well, he became my why, which
Mm,
is like the biggest thing, waking up every morning and looking at his little sweet face and knowing that he's the reason I'm going and doing what I'm doing. So that's been huge. We all need a why
mm,
on why our purpose,
mm-hmm,
and then showing I had a rough time. Shortly thereafter that I lost my mom to leukemia. So that
mm,
dynamic kind of fell through right after I was just trying to get established with my son and do a work-life balance. So there was a little bit of a lull, like as my son was going to about 2 and my mom being sick. Um, I saw a decline in my business. There was just a lot of family things going on and trying to make some adaptations. And I did resort back to going behind the bar for a few shifts, and trying to just make ends meet. And I was like, gosh, is this not for me? Should I just stop doing this? I don't know.
mm.
And it really took a lot of soul searching for me to sit down and write out what exactly I wanted to do. And it wasn't being behind the bar. It wasn't going back to civil service. It was investing in myself and my business and refocusing. I will say that a book that helped me was Jen Sincero, You're a Badass.
That's awesome. That's a great title.
She's got a series, and she's very vulgar and through the book, but she's real, and I love that because authenticity is probably one of my biggest things. I don't know what's the word for it.
Like values
There you
or
go. Core
mhm.
values. Yes, you want
Yep.
to be authentic. I'm not going to sugarcoat anything. I'm going to tell you how it is, and that's how she helped me get out of that state of my low. And
Mm,
after reading that book and then turning my mind frame around, that's when my business grew 400% within that 1 year. And
wow.
it I have a daycare right here by my main office, which is nice because I put my son in there, so that was convenient to be able to have my hours during the day free. And then the support from my brokerage, just with being completely hands-on and navigating me through how I can try to handle everything. They provided me with a transaction coordinator, with an assistant that has been amazing with, scheduling and stuff.
Amazing. I want to highlight a few things you just said because I think it's really impressive. And I think you have been, it sounds like just through the little bit of the story that I've heard so far, like faced with these moments of like, do I take leaps? Do I take risk? Like, even from, do I make a fear-based decision and stay in my comfort zone with, lots of stability, or do I take the leap into real estate full time? To, do I am I not cut out for this? Am I not, should I, go to back to civil service or bartending or something else to, support my mom and my son, to then really doing some soul searching and saying, no, I'm going to double down on this. I'm going to really invest in myself and my business. I just think those experiences you have are profound and universal. Like, I can imagine how many other real estate professionals and just entrepreneurs or self-employed professionals fall away or don't achieve that level of success because the
They give
fear,
up
the
too soon.
yeah, they get out because it is hard.
Mm,
And you achieve success 1 year, and then interest rates change and the market lulls right when your mom is sick and you're in the toddler phase, which is just brutal for everybody all the time. And it's like, I love that you went back to your why. And Simon Sinek's start with why, like, what is your purpose, and then how do you expand on that to then say, great, if I can be clear about my purpose, then the big scary decisions aren't as big and scary, they're just necessary.
you nailed it. Yes, exactly. I'm a firm believer that no one ever is going to grow or thrive in their comfort zone. And the
Mm-hmm.
only way that you're going to push yourself further or see results or achieve success is by stepping out of that comfort zone. It's going to be uncomfortable, it's going to suck, but then I mean, looking back on probably the most uncomfortable points of my career with real estate, there were plenty of shower cries. There were plenty of car cries. They were like, I don't even know how I'm going to do this. but now that's the points that made me who I am today. And now I'm not scared to do anything. I'll knock on a door, I'll make a phone call, I'll write a letter, it's those things to try to get you over that fear, I think, that
Mm,
have really helped a lot.
totally. My business coach basically right at the beginning was like, get comfortable being uncomfortable because nothing worth doing, nothing worth investing in is going to be easy. If it came easy, it's not probably worth it. And, the more that you can build those experiences, like the resilience of it in that moment where, like those raw moments, like I'm crying in the shower because what did I do and do I have what it takes to like push through that. Trial builds character, character builds perseverance, like all of these things that, I think I did that backwards. Trial builds perseverance, perseverance builds character,
There you go.
character produces leadership, and all these things. And so um I'm just really it's no wonder that you've achieved so much success because of just the way that you've had to like grit it out and made hard choices to be able to do it. So since your mom passed and, you were in more of a kind of, I'm assuming more of a rhythm with your son, you've really kind of achieved that hockey stick level of like, we're growing, we're growing, we're growing. Now we're really, a top producer. What has, I guess, what resources, I feel like I've heard you talk through, books and things like that. What have been some of the resources that if you were talking to a newer agent on your team, you would say like, here are the things that were kind of my keys to success?
Well, it's funny you say that because I'm working on developing a team right now.
Wonderful.
Um, Coastal Legacy Realty Group is the name. The
Awesome.
poor paperwork I just was landed on my desk today. Um,
That's
so
awesome. The timing is perfect.
yeah, and I wasn't ready. For the last 2 years, my broker was like, "You got a couple things you need to do before you can get ready for it." So, um, my biggest thing was what we already discussed was not to be scared, staying
Mm,
organized, and then you are your own worst enemy in any type of this. You can't teach the hustle, but you can teach the structure. If you don't
mm,
have the hustle, you're not going to have it in you because you're not going to have that one or that drive or that ambition to try to go after something. But if you have it and you're hungry and you're ready to figure out how to do it, the structure can be taught later. And that was probably one of the biggest keys to being able to get over that hump of the average $2 to $4 million producer a year to getting up above 10 million. And now my goal in being $20 million producer is having the systems in place and the structures in place and consistency. Like every morning, I don't care if I'm sick or I'm hungover, I still have to make those phone calls. And
yeah.
I still have to make the schedule. Now, my morning routines have been beneficial for me for mindset. I don't schedule any appointments prior to 11 a.m. because those are my moments to have with my son, my gym time, my meditation. I read the Bible. I kind of focus my brain on what all my whys and what I'm doing, and then I go with
Mm.
my appointments the rest of the day. And those have been huge.
What an incredible practice to just put that boundary in place. I think what that structure that you're saying is in my experience, with my clients and even in my own practice, it's so easy to make compromises on that and say, oh well, they want to meet at 9, so I'll just do it. I'll just do it, and you sort of give to everybody else. But to put that boundary to say, my first meetings aren't till 11. Is this? It feels like a slow down to speed up moment of like, I'm gonna slow down. I'm gonna get centered. I'm gonna spend time doing the things I value, being with my son, reading the Bible, meditating, centering myself so that when I am in that 11 o'clock meeting, that I'm 5 times more productive. I'm so much more engaged. I'm so much more effective. I deliver so much more value because I'm not reacting and running to everybody else. I'm saying, this is what we're doing. And I find this most successful people have that. They have that, this is what I do, and here's the boundaries I put in place, and I'm willing to slow down to be proactive as opposed to.
You'd really need it because if not, your brain's clouded with all of the negative bullshit that you get on a regular basis. Like,
Mm-hmm.
and So, I mean, at one point, I had 6 transactions in 1 month fall apart. And that was
Oh
like
my
about
gosh.
$100,000 that I was looking at, really. And that was a big lesson. Don't count your eggs before they're in, you know?
Yeah,
They were
totally.
completely out of my hands, and I wasn't centered. I was an emotional wreck over it. I blamed everything else except for myself on what needed to be done. But overall, now that I can go in and face each one and look at it and not use anything that I have dealing with because I've already dealt with that in the morning and I'm so focused on making that time that I am dedicating, like you said, purposeful and meaningful and productive, then it's a lot easier to navigate through the day.
It's amazing. So, throughout your journey from, civil service to part-time to full-time to having a child and losing your mom to becoming a top producer, what has surprised you the most about your journey through real estate?
This business is cutthroat. That is one thing. I had a real estate mentor, and she's actually retired to Margaritaville down in Florida now. And
Go ahead.
she's loving life, living her best life with her husband and having a ball. But she was a successful agent with Sotheby's as well, very top producing. And she said, just don't let it thicken your skin and don't let it make you hate people. And I didn't
Mm,
understand what she meant by that, but I I have learned to remove emotion from a transaction and
mm,
to take it for what it's worth. But you also have to remind yourself to re-engage in that emotion when it's necessary, and then not treat your friends and family like a transaction when you're going
mm,
back to that and really trying to separate the two. So that's been surprising to me. I didn't think that the people business was going to be so hard. And
mm,
when I got into real estate, I was like, oh, I'm going to have more freedom. I'm going to be able to take trips. I'm not going to have to work all day. Y'all got this 9 to 5, whatever. Well, the surprising thing is that I work really from 5 a.m. till 11 p.m. And I am always working on my social media and I'm always talking about real estate and I'm not never working. So
yeah.
that and take a trip. You can't take a trip because the second you take a trip, that's when your phone blows up or there's fires you need to put out. So
Hmm.
the reality of my goals initially of when I got into real estate, surprisingly now are completely opposite for where I'm standing.
Yeah. Oh, I see that too often. I see that in my own business. Just the entrepreneurial myth, the E myth is one of the books. There's a book called The E Myth that talks about that. It's like, I'm going to have so much freedom. I'm going to have, so much time. And it's like, you have so much control over your time. Like, you have more control over your life, but you do end up working so much harder. You do end up working more hours. Like, there is freedom, but it's not what you're anticipating as far as before you get into it.
Oh
And
yeah.
you have to learn this idea of like, okay, when I was W-2, I left my work at work and came
Right.
home. And now work is sort of woven into my whole life to where, like, sure, I can go to the gym at 11 a.m. Sure, I can do these things. But that's because I'm also working tonight and here and taking calls. And it's sort of like an as you go, you're just constantly alert to it versus, you know, I'm just going to take a month off because I own the business. And, like
Yeah,
that would
that
be,
can't never
that'd be
happen.
nice. Who does that? That's not a thing.
Right.
People, yeah, fake entrepreneurs on TV do that, but that's not us. Um,
Right.
what's been the low point for you?
I would have to say that probably the low point, which I touched on a little bit earlier, was going through the separation with my son's father, becoming that single mom I was solely dependent on myself while that was going on, and then my mother becoming sick broke my family apart. It was
Mm,
kind of the snowball cloud that was in that same year that the 6 transactions fell apart. And I had an investor that I was heavily working with, and she was cutting corners on houses, and clients were getting results that I just wasn't happy with putting my name on. So I had to fire her. And
mm,
it's like, I was like, get this cloud off of me.
mm,
it was tough trying to work away from that, and that's when I had to recenter myself. Of course, I was steering away from church. I was just so involved with trying to make sure my family was stable and being and what was necessary, traveling back and forth from Durham, my son and everything. But I was making up excuses not to really lean back in on my faith when it was necessary. So I
Mm,
reestablished that and read that book, You're a Badass. So that
hmm
that that was probably the worst point where I thought I was going to get out of real estate and try to lean back on that stability. But thank God I have friends, and that I'm a firm believer in this is that if you don't have friends that are smarter than you or wiser than you and achieving more than you, then you're sitting at the wrong table or with the wrong friends.
mm.
They all reminded me of how hard I had worked and what I wanted to do and told me just to dig my heels in. So I made that decision.
It's amazing. What an incredible journey through grief and suffering and like beginning to take ownership and say like, all right, I just am really like profoundly struck by that, genuinely. Of
Well, thanks. It was a little being real. I kind of just exposed it all, but I guess that's how it
totally.
should be, right?
There's
Authentic.
that authenticity, you know?
Yeah.
Like yeah, I can just relate in my own story. We had our son with special needs the year like 6 months after starting my business. So we went to like no income, and then our whole world flipped. And, you just have these like dark moments that you're like, I can either fold or like rise stronger, but it's going to be like a climb. But
But
then
you
when I
can't
climb and I
hold.
hit it, it's like now we're at a new peak and like new lessons and new growth and new joy that I didn't know. And, it's just really powerful. I love that your friends challenged you in that. So, this is a podcast about success. But what I found is if you ask anybody on the street, how do you define success? That word means different things to different people. You're going to get a different answer. So, for you in your journey, what does success look like for you?
Success for me is my son telling somebody a story later in life. Look, you're gonna make me start crying. And just being so proud of everything that I did.
Mm,
That's what it looks like for me.
amazing. I love that. I think that's really profound. Well, Jessica, you are a badass. The book
Thanks.
was true. The book has manifested itself, and I just appreciate your authenticity. I appreciate your realness through all the highs and lows, and you've really achieved a lot. And it looks like with your team, there's just more coming. And so I really appreciate you taking time. I appreciate you, you know, coming on, being real, and sharing your story with us on the Real Estate Success Podcast.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. It was fun. I didn't know what to expect. You seem pretty genuine yourself and made it easy for me to sit here and talk to you and kind of open up. So I appreciate that.
Of course, we'll have to have you back on once we see the team come through and hear the next chapter of your story.
Awesome. I love it. Thank you.